Okay, in this video we're going to look at the list functions from the practice problems. And the first one was to sum the items in a list, and we can assume that all items are numeric, so you don't have to worry about it, blowing up on us if we try to add a string or something like that. So we're going to pass in a list, which I'm just going to call a list in all of these, and we're going to initialize it to an empty list. And we need to return a total. So we have to have a local variable here called total that we start off at 0. And then as we work our way through the list, and we'll take on each value in the list, we want to add that onto our total. When we get done, we want to return the total. Make sure that you move the return statement back so it is underneath the 4. If you don't do that and leave it here, it's going to return on the very first pass through the list. So make sure that your return statement is, usually it's going to be outside of the loop at the end of the function. Okay, the next one says to find the average of all the items in a list, and again we can assume that all the items are numeric. So we're going to call it a list again. You're going to initialize it to the empty list, and we've already written sum. So average is the sum divided by the number of items on the list. So there's no point in rewriting this code when we've already got a sum function. So we're just going to call sum. We're going to pass in our list, and it will return the total. And we divide it by the number of items on the list, which we can use the length function for. Okay, sum the numeric items on the list, ignore the non-numeric items. So this one's a little trickier. We're passing in a list again. Again, we're doing a total, and we're going to step through every item in the list, which is what this for loop will do for us. But we've got to make sure that we skip the strings. Okay, so if I'm passing in a number, the unfortunately is numeric. Let's say I've just got a number in. Let's say I got total there. So if I do total dot is numeric, there is no is numeric there, okay, because it's already a number, so it's expected to be numeric. So what I have to do is I want to find out if everything is numeric before I add it. So I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to convert everything, every n item into a string. Now, if it's a number, let's say it's number 10, then converting a number 10 will make it that instead of that. And once I do that, actually I can show you right here. If I do 1, 0, and then do a dot, I will get a list of all the string functions, and one of those is numeric. So if it's a number, no problem. This will convert it into the string equivalent, and then I can find out if it's numeric. And if this was a number in the first place, this will be true. And then I can add that on to the total. And since this is just a function call, it's just going to make a copy of n as a string. It does not change n into a string. N is still a number. And I can add that on to total right here. So if this is a string and I try to convert it to a string, well, if you convert a string to a string, it doesn't do anything to it at all. It just stays a string. And this will tell me if it's numeric or not. If it's a string and it's not numeric, then this will be false, and I will not execute this. And when I get all done going through everything in the list and taking the numeric items and adding them on to total, then I want to return the total. And again, make sure that it's under the 4, not under the if or the total, because you'll return way too soon if you do that. Okay, the next item is to find the length of all of the items on a list, where every item on the list is also a list. So we got sub-lists. So we're going to call that a list, and then we're going to step through each item. And we're going to find out the total length of all of the individual sub-lists. So I'm going to go through each item in the list. Item will take on the first list that's in the list, then the second sub-list in the list, then the third sub-list, and so on. So if I have well, I'll take this example down here. Actually, that's the result of the example. But in the original, I think the 1, 2, and the 3 were in square brackets, and then like the 4 was in square brackets to be a list with one item, and then the 5 and the 6 were in square brackets, something like that. So if I'm passing in a list that has 1, 2, 3, this will give me the length of the first item, and it'll add it on. Then the next time, item will be the second sub-list in a list, and it'll find the length of that and add it on. And I'll keep on doing that for every item that's in the list, and then I'll return whatever that total is. Okay. And the last one for lists here is collapse a list. And so we're assuming that all of the elements in the list are lists. And what I want to do is I want to basically collapse those items, basically get rid of all the square brackets except for the first one and the last one, and make them into a single list. So I'm going to be passing in a list. We know that every item in it is going to be a list, and I want to create a new list. So for each item in the list, I want to take the new list and add those items on to my existing list. And if you add two list items together, what you get is a new list that is basically the sum, if you want to call it that, of the two lists. As a single list with an opening square bracket and a closing square bracket and nothing else in between. And when I get done, I want to return that. So for every item on the list, this will take on the first sublist and the second sublist and the third sublist and so on. And this plus operator here basically, gets rid of the brackets and makes the two items into a single list. So if we scroll down here now to where my code is for the list functions, I'm going to call the sum with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should print 15. I'm going to get the average of these. It should be 3.5. In this one, I'm going to check to see if that's numeric, and it's not. I'm going to convert that to a string and see if it's numeric, and it is. That is. And I'll add the 5 and the 10 and the 15. Convert that into a string. Well, it's already a string, so it doesn't do anything to it. Check to see if it's numeric. It is not numeric, and therefore I will add up the 5 and the 10 and the 15 and get number 30. Okay, down on this one, I want to find the total length. Well, the length of this list is three items. This is one item, and this is two items. So you add those up, and you should get 6 for an answer. And on this one, I want to collapse these lists. So here's a list, here's a list, here's a list. It's basically the same one I had up here. But I want to basically get rid of like this bracket and this bracket and this bracket and this bracket, make them all into one list that kind of looks like that. Okay. And if I run it, this is my output down here. I ran it before I started, and I am getting exactly what I wanted to get. So that takes care of our list functions, and we'll take a look at the string functions in the next video.